going to talk about microbial structure. A virus is a strict parasite, meaning it can only reproduce inside a host. Viruses do not contain the components of a normal organism such as like plants, animals, or even bacteria. Some say that they are not even alive because they cannot reproduce without a host.
To reproduce, they use their genes encoded in DNA or RNA to trick the host cell to use its own machinery to make more copies of the virus. For viruses to trick the host, they must enter the proper host cells. For example, SARS-CoV-2 can only reproduce within cells that line the human respiratory tract. A virus that causes gastrointestinal disease like norovirus can only reproduce inside cells that line our intestines. Further, some viruses only infect certain bacteria or species of plant. Virus is typically made up of nucleic acid, protein, and sometimes lipid. The virus nucleic acid is surrounded by a protective protein called capsid, an outer membranous layer called an envelope surround capsid in some viruses. Viral capsid, usually protein coat, provides protection to viral nucleic acid, an attachment to host cells. It composed of protein subunit called capsomers. Some capsid composed of a single type capsomer. Others are composed of multi-layers. The viral envelope is acquired from host cell during viral release. Envelope portion membrane system of host. It also contains protein and glycoprotein, virally coded glycoprotein or spike, and these also play a role for host recognition. If a virus doesn't have an envelope, it is considered a naked virus. Viruses have displayed a wide diversity of their shape and sizes. Helical viruses are composed of a single type of capsomer stacked around a central axis to form a helical structure, which may have a central cavity or hollow tube. Icosahedral is mostly animal viruses are near spherical with icosahedral symmetry. Prolate is an isosahedron elongated along one axis, and it is common arrangement of the heads of bacteriophages. Envelope. Some species of virus involve themselves in modified form of one of the cell membranes, either the outer membrane surrounding an infected host cell or internal membranes such as nuclear membrane or endoplasmic reticulum, thus gaining an outer lipid bilayer known as viral envelope. Complex viruses possess a capsid that is neither purely helical nor purely icosahedral, and that may possess extra structures such as protein tails, a complex outer wall. In cellular structure, the cell of all prokaryotes and eukaryotes possess two basic features: a plasma membrane, also called a cell membrane, and cytoplasm. However, the cells of prokaryotes are simpler than those of eukaryotes. For example, prokaryotic cells lack a nucleus, while eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells lack internal cellular bodies, organelles, while eukaryotic cells possess them. Examples of prokaryotic are bacteria and archaea. An example of eukaryotic are protists, fungi, plants, and animals. In bacterial, the cell wall forms a rigid structure of uniform thickness around the cell and is responsible for the character shape of the cell, such as rod, cocos, or spiral. Inside the cell wall, or rigid peptidoglycan layer, is the plasma or cytoplasmic membrane. This is usually closely opposed to the wall layer. The following structure and organelles can be found in bacterial cells. Capsule, found in some bacterial cells, and this additional outer covering protect the cell when it is engulfed by other organisms, assists in retaining moisture, and helps the cell adhere to surface and nutrients. Cell wall. The cell wall is an outer covering that protects the bacterial cell and gives its shape. Cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a gel-like substance composed mainly of water that also contains enzyme, salt, cell components, and various organic molecules. Cell membrane or plasma membrane. The cell membrane surrounds the cell. Cytoplasm regulates the flow of substances in and out of the cell. The pili or pilus singular, hair-like structure on the surface of the cell that attach to other bacterial cells. Shorter pili called membrane help bacteria attach to surfaces. Flagella are long, whip-like protrusion that aid in cellular locomotion. Ribosomes are cell structure responsible for protein production. Plasmids are gene-carrying circular DNA structure that are not involved in reproduction. Nucleotide region are area of the cytoplasm that contains the single bacteria DNA molecules. Most bacteria have a cell wall, and they typically have one of two types, a gram-positive cell wall or a gram-negative cell wall. The two different cell wall types can be identified in the lab by a different stain known as the gram stain. The cell wall of gram-positive bacteria are composed predominantly of peptidoglycan. In fact, peptidoglycan can represent up to 90% of the cell wall, with layer after layer forming around the cell membrane. The cell wall of gram-negative bacteria are more complex than that of gram-positive bacteria with more ingredients overall. They do contain peptidoglycan as well, although only a couple of layers representing 5 to 10% of the total cell wall. What is most notable about the gram-negative cell wall is the presence of plasma membrane located outside of the peptidoglycan layers known as the outer membrane.